Here are your hosts, Derick G and AJ.
UFC Vegas 78, Vicente Luque versus Rafael dos Anjos. Folks, this is a blast from the past. This is an old school welterweight matchup right here. And speaking of welterweight, RDA makes his return back up to 170, no longer at 155. This is a whole mix-em up. So folks, breaking it down with me as always, the New Mexico native, the Santa Fe bomber himself, AJ. It's another episode of the Bloody Water Podcast. My brother, how are you feeling?
Derick, I'm feeling well, my brother. And you know, you said that this feels like an old school kind of fight back home, man, and it really does. Somebody you bump shoulders with, somebody you've idolized for such a long time, coming back and still staying on top of the game, always putting to the test, is Father Time really there? Will he be undefeated? RDA has something for that, but also so does Vicente Luque. This is going to be a very fun week of fights. Derick, were you excited as much as I was about breaking down these and excited to talk to me about it?
I was, because the ability to break this down means that Vicente Luque is indeed fighting. There was a little bit of a scare going on after his last fight against Jeff Neal, brain bleed, potentially having the sport taken away from him. And then I have learned recently, I have joined AJ, I've joined you, my man, into the knee injury immobilization club. And when you do something that you love and it gets taken away from you, even temporarily, it's a scary feeling. So all love, Vicente Luque is back in action. Here's the real scary part, man. RDA, former title contender right here, like fought for the title a bunch of times, bunch of 5-round fights. This is by no means a slouch of a fighter, and we're in for a great main event. AJ, we're at 237 episodes as of today's recording. That means we're almost to 250. What this means is we've been putting out 2 episodes a week for a very long time at this point, and we're not stopping anytime soon, AJ. So where can the people find us? Where do they need to reach out? Let the people know.
Bloody Water Podcast, man. Make sure you're subscribed right here on YouTube. Even if you're an Instagram follower, a Twitter follower, you can find us there too. But the main spot, the most value you can get for your click on your cell phone, is right here at YouTube. And the best thing, folks, Derick said himself, 237 episodes. The one thing you can always count on us for is that consistency to give you the picks each and every week and the knowledge that's inside our brain. And if you're not doing it here, at least click over onto my channel. But you should be clicked right here, folks, if you're already watching it. Ain't no excuses anymore. Let's make some money this weekend.
That's right, and you can find him at Santa Fe Bomber. Just type it in anywhere. It'll take you to where you need to go. Now, folks, last thing here before we jump into the real deal stuff, take a look at the scoreboard down below. Folks, we do not sell anything here on this product. If there's anything that we sell, it's free game. We're giving it to you for free. So if you heard about this show by somebody referring you, by somebody putting it on Twitter, putting it on Instagram, whatever the case may be, do the same. Tell a friend to tell a friend. This is your favorite fighter's favorite fight show. Now, with that being said, it's time to jump into the picks. My disclaimer before we jump forward, we're going to open this up for a few seconds on the screen. Take a screenshot now. Go run to your sports book. Drop a comment below after we win you some money. But if you want to know the reasons why, you want to know the prop locks, you want to know all the ins and outs, you watch the show. Here we go, AJ. Let's get it. All right, my man, this is going down in like 3 seconds, folks. So I'm telling you right now, get your screenshots in. But it looks like we got a pretty heavy Bloody Water Podcast consensus pick rain, I guess we should say here. Real quick, I'll rattle them off. Hakeem Dawodu, Khalil Rountree Jr., that's kind of a surprise right there. Nchukwi and Josh Fremd. We're going to talk about all of that. You'll find out why that's a surprise in just a moment, folks. And as for the prop locks, AJ, talk to the people. What prop locks we got?
Woo, prop locks for me, Derick. It's Tafon, the Don, and Nchukwi by submission. And for you on the other end, we got Josh Fremd by decision. I like these picks, folks. You and Derick said it too. You're seeing the things? Make sure you're commenting down below if you're winning some money on it. It gives you the chance to say what's up.
That's right. All right, let's talk some fights, folks. Let's get it.
Here's to another main card breakdown, courtesy of your hosts, Derick G and AJ.
All right, AJ, this is going to be one of a couple matchups that are one of those weird ones where it's like, look at the numbers. Number 10 versus number 9. Why is number 10 on the A side? Well, that number 9, Rafael dos Anjos, that is coming from lightweight. Now we're jumping back up to 170 pounds. And this is a weird matchup simply because you have the contender who was on a run, who's been on multiple runs, who we're really just talking about a title contender who's all of a sudden fallen from grace. And now it seems like RDA is the favorite in this matchup. AJ, what are your thoughts on this?
Derick, this is such a close fight. The numbers have been back and forth, and seeing RDA just jump around, to me, tells me he can still do it, tells me he's feeling well, but it does give me a little bit of hesitation not knowing where his home is and if he's really able to compete in this 170-pound class. We see a lot of fighters drop into lower ones, so that way they have that edge. very seldomly are they able to jump up a division and actually dominate. Do you see a problem in this switching around, Derick, or not at all?
I don't see a problem. What I see is the natural progression of age, right? As you get older, it gets a little bit harder to cut the weight. You might want to just fight where you feel a little bit better. Here's the thing, man. While RDA did not have a glamorous run at 170, he fought the who's who of the 170-pound division. Robbie Lawler, Colby Covington, Kamaru Usman. Like, we're talking crazy names right here. I think he got the win against Kevin Lee at 170, right? I might be mistaken there. Kevin Lee and Leon Edwards. I believe that was like the end of the 170 reign. Came back up to 155, and then we came back against Brian Barberena. So, of the wins, not the greatest wins, I guess you could say, but these are the best people, pretty much, right? Vicente Luque, on the other hand, he's also had a pretty much of a killer's row, but it's not the same thing. I think we can say RDA is arguably, as it stands right now, one of the most time-tested veterans in the UFC. Is that correct?
100%, Derick.
So if he is the most time tested, then he arguably may try to take an approach that is a little akin to Corey Sandhagen's last week performance, where he says, path of least resistance. What is that against Vicente Luque, AJ?
Whew, that's an interesting one, Derick. I would think the ground game. Vicente Luque is also talented on the ground, though, so that's the thing. Easy path of least resistance for RDA. Avoid the leg kicks. Avoid the pressure that he's going to put on you and really bully Vicente Luque into that, because he is going to try to take away your main weapons. What do you see, Derick?
I see path of least resistance for RDA. Take the Bilal Muhammad approach against Vicente Luque. Stay high motor for all of these, 5 rounds, which RDA, we know, I mean, literally a vast majority of his last 10 are all 4 or 5 rounders, right? So stay on the gas pedal for 5 rounds, strike, clinch, take down, get up, strike, clinch, take down, and just try to do that. Now, I'm saying that like on paper, that's the easiest path of least resistance or whatever. Vicente Luque, though, man, listen, this dude is huge, right? 5'11", 76-inch reach. He's going to put the pressure on. He's going to try to strike with RDA. My concern, RDA is a southpaw. Vicente Luque just fought a southpaw. He got ate up by the left hand. Did he spend the camp, in your thought process, does he spend the camp saying, I have to avoid the left hand, or does he say business as usual?
I think he says business as usual, Derick. If you're going into that Jeff Neal fight, especially with Vicente Luque, he didn't seem like he was performing at that level because he was eating a left hand all day long, and that's really kind of changed that mentality. So, yes, I'm sure the left hand, the power hand, and all the things that RDA is going to be able to put into implementation are actually going to be on the forefront of Vicente Luque's mind. But when you're in there, I think he's going to revert back to the normal style of Luque, man. Dipping in, going in, putting that pressure. Like I said, leg kick heavy. I expect this to be a washing machine fight, a bunch of leg kicks, a bunch of bruises up and down for both of these guys. But it's going to be just a brawl, because I don't really see – this is one of those fights, Derick, and then tell me if you see something different. But I see a firefight versus a firefighter right here. This is just going to be up and down wherever the fight goes. Both men will be comfortable in that chaos, and it's just going to be those split-second moments of who gets the advantage. In that aspect, I still have it a coin toss. Do you see one or the other more favored in a firefight?
I think that's a very fair assessment through and through, and if I like one more than the other in a firefight, it's crazy to say, man. It's RDA here. In a weird way, it's RDA, and the only reason why is because we've seen the demoralization of Vicente Luque when he just cannot get going. RDA, if he can just hold you there, he's going to do that. Only problem that I see in that logic, the hold in the logic, is you can't just hold people anymore. You got to do something with it, or else that doesn't really count. So that's why I think that Vicente Luque at a plus 100 underdog here, at least at open. Let me actually check what the live odds are. Live odds plus 105, minus 125 for RDA. So at this steal of a price right here, I think you can get a lot of bang for your buck betting on Vicente Luque, given that I think that he will land the more damaging shots on the feet. And I have the thought process that he stuffs a lot of these takedowns from RDA. And I think that someone's going to get tired. We'll see who it is. I imagine it'd probably be Luque first, but if he could stuff the takedowns, we can have some success. Is there anything we're missing in this matchup that we haven't covered?
Ooh, this matchup for missing things, Derick, is hard because both of these guys know everything, have seen everything, have fought multiple people that are somewhat akin to the kind of fighter they're going to be faced against. So, I mean, X's and O's, I think really it comes down to who's going to want it more and who's going to be the bigger dog in there. And to that same point, it's still a coin flip. So, folks, if you are going to be betting on Vicente Luque on this one, make sure you get ahead of that curve. Like Derick said, plus 105, because these numbers are going to be flipping and flopping. When I went and looked on Monday at the prop bets or at just the money line and everything, it was even. I think even RDA was the underdog, but there's going to be so much movement back and forth. Don't discount Vicente Luque because of his last performance, and don't bet too heavy on RDA. This one is going to be a very, very close fight.
And this is the part that all of the paper stuff doesn't really bring to fruition, but you have to think about this too. Time tested, RDA is burned, engraved into our minds as being a legend already. Vicente Luque, one of the most dangerous finishers out there against the highest level of opposition. RDA's 38 years old, bro, and like we just had, forgive me, we had somebody drop a comment here on the channel, and I forgive me because I do not remember your name, but shout out, you know who you are. And all he was talking about was statistics about how fighters who are over 40, which is not applicable in this case, who are over 40 statistically have an incredibly high likelihood of losing their fight against the younger opposition. I think that we need to extend that logic here and talk a little bit further. And we're done here, but talk, bring that into the conversation. Listen, man, 38 years old, at some point, Father Time does come back and say, nah, buddy, it's not going to work the same way. Any thoughts before we close this out?
38 years old. I know he has a knee injury. We've seen him have to recover from that knee injury. I think there's a shoulder or something else there too. So the body has been worn down a lot. But like I opened up the show with Derick in the intro, I feel like RDA is one of those few fighters who's going to be able to last a long time because of his skill set. Mm-hmm. And thankfully, age does deteriorate, but the skill set usually stays pretty sharp until, the brain goes. I think it's not too much to dig into, but that does not mean it's the same thing for the rest of the fighters on this card.
Fair play. Give me Vicente Luque and give me a decision victory, bro. I want to go with the finish so bad right here. I want to go with the TKO plus 200, but something is telling me that it's going to be a hard-fought decision victory. Might be closer than we think. What do you think?
No, I can agree with you, Derick, especially because I do think this is going to be an extremely hard-fought victory. I'm actually going RDA, and I'm also taking the decision.
RDA decision. Fair. On both sides, folks. Whoever you're tailing, bet carefully, bet wisely. You know what time it is. All right, folks. Now bringing in the co-main event. Man, Cub Swanson, somehow, some way, he gets matched up with Hakeem Dawodu, Mean Hakeem. And listen, man, I think we can be fair to say this. For the 39-year-old Cub Swanson, not the most favorable matchup here. Don't know what he did to deserve the matchup, but if he wanted it, then let's get it. Now, Cub Swanson has fought the who's who. He's fought everybody. He's coming off of a pretty rough leg kick loss to Jonathan Martinez, and you would imagine Hakeem Dawodu is going to come out the gates, and he's going to beat up the legs. So what would be the strategy for Cub Swanson to try to be well-rounded enough to capitalize on putting another L on Dawodu's record? Because he did just come off to that loss against Juicy J, Julian Erosa.
I think Cub Swanson, in order to win this fight, needs to put Hakeem Dawodu on his back, close the distance, put the pressure, nullify those long-distance attacks, those leg kicks, that nice jab that Hakeem has. He has a very powerful right hand as well. If Cub Swanson can get on the inside, take this fight to the ground, control him there, we've seen Dawodu struggle a little bit with that exact position. Now, that being said, it's a lot easier because we know in that last fight that Hakeem had against Julian Erosa, he was throwing the knees. He was throwing the uppercuts. And so, to Erosa's credit, so was he. So he's stopping a lot of that attack. I think Cub Swanson's going to have to depend on his old-school veteran mentalship and actually be able to get this fight where it's most advantageous to him. Do you see him also being outstruck on the feet, or is there another way to victory right here, Derick?
Well, that's what was interesting. I was agreeing with you because you're like, he needs to put him on the back, and I thought you were going to follow that up with back foot, right? I was like, oh, okay, yeah, he's got to put him on the back foot. Put him on his back. That's not a bad suggestion either. That's an even better suggestion. I just think it's going to be difficult. If you can put Mean Hakeem on his back foot, take away the leg kicks, right, make him really just become a counterpoint fighter, turn it into an ugly brawl, I think that's the best path to victory for Cub Swanson. Because I could see Dawodu personally, just from what I've watched, I think that he excels much better in a technical fight, right? Something that's clean cut versus something that's just an all-out blood and guts fight, which Cub Swanson definitely does excel in. So, do we see Hakeem Dawodu try to take the approach of potentially like a Giga Chikadze, or even Jonathan Martinez was working a little bit, but try to work that body work of Cub Swanson, slow him down a little bit, and potentially chase a finish? Because all love to Cub Swanson, but I do see finishing capacities here for Dawodu. I think that even though he's been primarily a decision fighter, that plus 160 TKO is not looking too bad. What do you think?
I think you hit the nail on the head, Derick. If Hakeem Dawodu is able to, or if Cub Swanson is able to actually go in there and start to do exactly what you said, that prevents a whole new thing for Hakeem, because I can see him being the one on the edge, being the one hitting him with power strikes and actually doing that. Cub Swanson, you said it before, Derick, he pulls you into that firefight and really allows you to kind of the chaos to take over and allow that fight to become something that's more Cub Swanson. So for Hakeem Dawodu to really stay controlled, composed, and mental, I think that's going to be his biggest challenge here. We've seen in most of his fights, man, even the Trezano or the Mosar Evloev, he's down to get clipped. He's down to have that firefight. So right there, that little ego challenge, if you will, that Cub Swanson presents, I think that's going to be a real sticking point for Cub to try and make happen. I agree with you. I think Cub Swanson is better in the firefight. Hakeem Dawodu's better as a technical striker. Who has the advantage on the ground, or at least not necessarily wrestling, Derick, not necessarily jiu-jitsu, but getting off the ground and into their own comfortable space? Who do you think has that advantage there?
It's tough, man, because Cub Swanson is a certified black belt in jiu-jitsu, man. Mm-hmm. So when it comes to being a grappler, obviously you give it to Cub. We've seen Dawodu struggle with some of the grappling as of late. I just think that when it comes down, especially right now with the athleticism, Dawodu, and the age discrepancy, I think if he gets taken down, first thing he's going to do is try to get back up to the feet, use the cage to scrape him off, and then get back out at range. With that being said, man, I mean, clear cut, I like Hakeem Dawodu here. I think it's hard to bet against him at minus 250. The question really becomes of what value do you see in any of these props? And like I'm going to touch on before, give me Dawodu and give me that plus 160 TKO. I see some value there. What do you think?
I incredibly see value in that Hakeem Dawodu plus 160. It's rough saying that against Cub, though, too, because, I mean, as much as he is a grizzled veteran, the chin has been starting to become wavery, especially at 39 years old. I'm taking it too, Derick. Give me Hakeem Dawodu and give me that TKO.
All right, fair play in the featherweight division. Bangkok-ready Khalil Rountree versus Chris Daukaus? Maybe. We never really know which version of Khalil Rountree we're going to get, but we do know one thing. He is coming into this matchup against a Chris Daukaus who did not see the success that we thought he would at heavyweight, but he definitely has his hands full. I think that Khalil Rountree, though, is the A-side definitively. I think that he's definitely been coming into his own, and since that vicious knee kick-in victory against Modestas Bukauskas, listen, he's been on a run. Bukauskas, Carl Roberson, Dustin Jacoby. Now, AJ, let's talk about Chris Daukaus. Fast hands, big power in that right hand. Only problem that we saw is that he just couldn't really handle the power at 265. But he was very well walking around, or I guess I should say not walking around, fighting at 240 pounds. Coming down to 205, you would imagine he definitely is going to have at least some form of a power advantage. Do you think?
Woo, a power advantage against Bangkok Khalil Rountree, maybe not. But Khalil Rountree that's kind of underperforming, having a rough weight cut, then I start to see a little bit of the argument there, Derick. What we've just known Chris Daukaus as, he's never been a power brawler. He's been a brawler, but he has this speed to him that was quite an advantage at the heavyweight division. Now dropping down to where the people are faster, still hit pretty damn hard because you're getting hit by a 205 guy. There's still, regardless, it's a lot of power behind it, and especially if it's Khalil Rountree, because this dude hits like an absolute truck. So power, I don't see it. I still see the advantage to Khalil Rountree. What about speed, though, Derick? Where do you see that one going?
Well, it's tough because I think that speed, while Chris Daukaus had it at heavyweight, that's not always going to translate to 205. The weird thing about it, right, speed-wise, I wouldn't give it to either guy, honestly. I think both of these guys are just kind of at a standstill there. Power-wise, I'm not saying Daukaus is the harder puncher. I'm just saying naturally, you fought at heavyweight, 240 pounds, you probably got some pop on your shot, right? Now, the way they deliver the strike is a whole other conversation because that's what I want to get into here. I see openings, AJ, and it scares me. I love me some Khalil Rountree, even at minus 210, but what scares me is the openings that he presents when he decides to commit to his shots. And Chris Daukaus, similarly to exactly the way that he got caught against Rosenstruck, what did he do? Loaded up for the big right hand, just got clipped. Rountree, when he wants to open up, he goes from here to... Whew, all right, and then we're going to throw the big shots. And it's effective, and it works at 205, bro. But do you see what I'm seeing with that Chris Daukaus being able to sneak in that right hand and just clip him and get him out of there?
Oh, 100%, Derick. And I also see it on the other side, too. When you said openings, I thought you were going to talk about openings for Chris Daukaus because we've seen those exploited a lot. Mm-hmm. Dipping his head, hands down, chin a little bit high, and especially when he starts getting in trouble and starts reaching for something and just not covering your guard, not having your hands up. it's a little worrisome. And that's why, as a self-initiated Daukaus brother over here, it's hard to see that kind of skyrocket take off and then kind of peter out. So I do think this is a great opportunity for Chris Daukaus to come in and really define who he is in a new weight class at a younger age. I mean, this dude's only the 33, younger, not youngest, but still able to compete against the people in that class. He's going up against another absolute killer. It's just, well, how does Khalil Rountree show up is what really gives me the pause for hesitation on this. Will he be the killer we've seen in the last 3 fights, or will he have that Jan Kutalaba kind of 100,000-yard stare? We shall see. Who do you think shows up, Derick?
I think Khalil Rountree is going to be highly motivated for this matchup. Listen, man, you have polar opposites. 3-fight win streak for Rountree, 3-fight losing streak, and entering a new division for Chris Daukaus. So he has 2 things. 1, he needs fresh start, right? So we need a change of scenery. And 2, we need to get a win. We just need to remember, what does it feel like to win? And I'm not saying anything on him, but that's for anybody. It's human nature. You want to feel that feeling again. Khalil Rountree wants to continue to feel that feeling. So momentum, definitely for Rountree. I think the leg kicks are going to be a very, very big weapon in this matchup, but that's the problem too, because the leg kicks must be set up or else you're going to get cracked. You throw the blind leg kick. Do not think that we're going to see the ground in this matchup, do you?
No, I don't think so at all. Maybe from Chris Daukaus if he's hurt, but I don't see it happening, brother.
Yeah, maybe a panic shot or something like that, but in a pure slugfest, does this go past 1 round?
One round.
Not
in a
one
pure
and a half.
slugfest, no, Derick. Yeah. Absolutely throwing hands in a phone booth, toe to toe. No, it does not go past 1 round. I do see this fight going past 1 round, but still ending in the second before the third.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, that was the matchup right there with Rosenstruck and Daukaus, right? It was like 10 seconds into the second round, just got him out. You know what I mean? So it's like we could see something similar. I'm not going to discount Chris Daukaus here. I know it's almost memeable at this point because it's just him getting knocked around the cage and whatnot, but we cannot forget how stunning he came onto the scene, man. The wins against Parker Porter, Rodrigo Nascimento, Alexei Oleinik, Shamil Abdurakhimov. That was the big one that I was calling. I was saying, bro, he's going to get him out of there. Khalil Rountree, I still taking that to the bank, bro. I'm just scared about the minus 150 TKO right there because if it just comes on the other side, either way, I think those are the 2 outcomes, though. TKO or TKO. It just depends on who's going to get it. We're rolling with Rountree here, correct?
We're rolling with Rountree, Derick. I feel a little insulted myself that I'm going Khalil Rountree by TKO, but minus 150, folks, you have got to smash that number.
And folks, if you're a fan of this program, if you're like a longtime listener, you know how crazy that sounds. That was like me betting against some of my people, right? Betting against the who I got, man. I don't even remember. I got some guys. AJ, you remember anybody? No? We move on?
Yeah, let's move on, brother. I blinked it too. I know who you're talking about 2 shows ago, folks. Go check the tapes and see what's up.
That's right. All right, but with that being said, now we're back into action for the ever-popular Yasmin Lucindo. This time she gets a UFC veteran in Polyana Viana. Not a Brogan Walker, but a Polyana Viana, man. Somebody who's got some pretty wicked striking and some solid grappling to boot. But with that being said, man, we do have to talk about some of these younger fighters who are really splashing onto the scene. Yasmin Lucindo. We have I'm blanking on her name too, man. Brazilian chick, submission artist. She's, you know who I'm talking about? It's like Carini Silva. There we go. Carini Silva. Some of these younger fighters who are just splashing on the scene, they're killing it, right? Yasmin Lucindo, given that she just pretty much beat up Brogan Walker over the course of 3 rounds, who was a tough finalist, all that stuff. What do we think her chances of victory are against an established veteran like Polyana Viana?
Well, this is the test, isn't it, Derick? This is the real litmus test of finally getting into somebody who, admittedly, if you're a casual fan, you probably don't know who Polyana Viana is unless you follow her on Instagram or something like that. There's nothing in the casual media mind that's really claiming Polyana Viana right here. So I think a lot of people are looking for Lucindo to really put the pressure on, really throw those hands, really be the bully that we've seen her be, walk you down, kick you in the leg, punch you in the head, punch you in the gut, kick you in the gut, all these things that we've seen her do. But Derick, now, I mean, if you're looking for numbers on how effective I think that, or how easy this win is going to be for Lucindo, let's say she gets the win, I don't think it's going to be easy at all. I was genuinely, I'll let the mask off or whatever you want to call it. I've been back and forth on this pick so many times. When I sent it to Derick on Discord, this was one of those ones where I thought, like, man, we got a sleeper right here in Polyana Viana because she can do so much damage and nobody is giving her any credit. I mean, the underdog in this fight, it's a little closer than I thought it was going to be. I won't lie. Plus 160 is not bad. So if you're on the Viana camp, hammer that. But she presents so many options and so many different tactics in which to fight, but doesn't have that boisterous attitude like Lucindo does. So a lot less eyes on makes for a dangerous opponent. Do you feel what I'm saying, Derick?
No, everything that you're saying rings true, because to the average person, you're going to look at this fight and you're going to say, oh, Lucindo minus 190. Okay, I get it. Viana, what have I seen her done that's impressive? Well, she's done a lot that's impressive. You just got to pay attention to be able to recognize that. And I think that she showed a lot, man. She showed a lot, especially like in her last one against Jinyu Frey, right? Jinyu Fry, excuse me. She's a very talented fighter, admittedly small for her weight class. She was a former atomweight fighter, so it's not really the same thing. But to be able to get her out of there at 115 pounds with like a TKO like that was very impressive. Now, if you look at the last three finishes before that, Veronica Hardy, which like you cannot downplay that loss. It is aged very, or that win, it's aged very well, or that loss. Yeah, it was a loss. Veronica Hardy has kind of gotten back into, good standing. Emily Whitmire, which is not the greatest win, and then Mallory Martin. So two people who are like admittedly not really in the UFC anymore, but all first round, right? So like you got the loss against Hardy, you get 2 wins against some other fighters, all finishes. That's the point. When she's winning, she's finishing fights. When she's tall and she's able to strike and not to threat of someone trying to take her down like Tabitha Ricci did, she's got some very impressive Muay Thai stand-up right there, man. So for me, that's what this matchup is about. It's about the technical prowess of the tall fighter who is taller and longer in Viana, who's going to throw straight shots, versus Lucindo, where lots of wild stuff is going to get thrown. But if she clips you, that's when we're going to really have problems on our hands. So what do you take? 10 out of 10 times, do you take the technical striker over the power person? Or do you say, oh, no, power definitely wins 4 out of 10 times? Like, what is your thought?
On that scale, Derick, I'd say technique wins 7 out of 10 times. The puncher always has a chance. The power always has a chance to land, but you put somebody in the ring 10 times, usually it's going to be that technique that wins it. What do you think?
I mean, it's crazy because in MMA, anything can happen. So it's like it doesn't particularly apply to a T. But yeah, I like the technical striker. Like if I'm saying probability-wise, give me the technical striker who's going to throw the clean, straight shots, get out of distance, mix in a takedown, versus the one who is, I'm going to walk forward. I like Lucindo's her hand to gauge distance. It's always out there, always out there. She switched stances and that stuff. But Viana with that tall stance right there, and she's a taller fighter, it's going to be hard for Lucindo to pop that jab as much, in my opinion. So I just see an upset play here. I see Polyana Viana winning a decision victory because I don't think she's going to take her down and submit her. I think Lucindo is a little too well established for that personally. I think she wins a decision victory right here. A lot of people are like, oh my God, Polyana Viana, she stopped the hype train. She's so good, da-da-da-da-da. And then we're sitting here because we watch fights and we look at this and we said we knew that there was a high probability of this happening. However, we're not letting the narrative and the the storyline sway our judgment. Even though as we let the cat out of the bag earlier, we're not particularly on the same side of the fence for the pick. Do you understand the logic?
Oh, 100%, Derick. And the only reason we're not on the same side of the fence is just because we had to take the picks. Because I'm literally one cheek over on that bench, brother. I am right there. This is such a close fight, folks. If you're as hesitant as I am on this one, I would do this one as a stay away. But this is such the dangerous thing about Polyana Viana, and Derick listed her acumen just a little bit ago. All those fighters that we don't know anything about anymore that kind of fell off was because they ran through Polyana Viana and she finished them in round 1. So she is that test. She is that litmus marker going forward. And if it happens to Lucindo, that mental game right there, that thought of, am I as good as the Tabitha Ricci's? Am I as good as all these fighters that she has lost to? The JJ Aldridge, the Hannah Cyphers. Yeah, those are older names, but they were still at one point in the top of the division. Yeah. Can Lucinda match that? It's a very scary thought. And to that point, Derick, I think the only way, or what the easiest route to victory for Lucindo, and I'm going to hammer it, man, plus 380 TKO. I think that's the only way. You got to dip on the inside, be a little mini Mike Tyson, catch her on the chin, and do not follow her to the ground.
That's right. Fair enough right there. And just know, listen, man, these hot studs, they can get it done. They totally can. Or we can get screwed the way we did when Yasmin Hadagi ran into Denise Gomes, right? And if you don't know those names, folks, go check the tapes, man. You know what time it is. All right. Moving on down, AJ Dobson versus Tafon the Don Nchukwi, man. Middleweight contest right here. It always surprises me every time I see Tafon Nchukwi and I see 185 pounds. Like, it always astonishes me because I'm just like, how? You're 185 pounds for like 2 seconds, man. Like, word to Joe Rogan, right? But he does get a interesting test here against an AJ Dobson, who is admittedly coming off of 2 decision losses, but 2 very talented opponents in Armin Petrosian, fantastic Muay Thai striker, and Jacob Malkoun, who just mauls people on the ground. However, Tafon Nchukwi got served a slice of humble pie in his last fight against Carlos Ulberg. And I want to know, what are your thoughts, man? You fought Azamat Mirzakhanov and Carlos Ulberg, who admittedly, in their own right, are arguably more dangerous than the 2 fighters I listed for AJ Dobson. So what is our thought process for both fighters coming into this?
Yeah, I'll start off with Tafon the Don and Nchukwi. If you're coming in after fighting, like you said, Mirzakhanov, Carlos Ulberg, a lot of these people that have had that narrative, especially Carlos Ulberg for sure, coming out of the Sydney camp with Izzy, I forget the name,
City Kickboxing.
Yep. Coming out of that camp, having all that hype, having that kind of allure, especially against a Tafon that showed up, that did have that at the beginning, but then kind of started to fall into that obscurity range after the Junior Park loss. I think he sees a little bit of that, like, man, I could have had that. I could have had that. Where will I be to be able to get back to that position? Now, AJ Dobson, I don't think he's even sniffed that air of this is how my life's going to be. He's in it for the grind. He's in it for the fight. He's been there since day one, steadily counting his bricks, going up and up and up, and not really having to have that forward thinking of, man, it might happen, it might not, it might be taken from me, where it goes. In that kind of sense, man, the mental capacity seems to be on the Dobson side. But to that point, Derek, Tafon the Don, he's 185 pounds, 185 pounds for all of 0.3 seconds while he's on the scale. He has the power advantage. He might have the striking advantage. That one's definitely up for debate for me. Do you see this fight hitting the ground, or are we in for a good old-fashioned brawl right here?
Bro, when I saw this fight, man, I was like, if you're AJ Dobson, how do you not try to take this guy down? You have to. But that's the problem, is that AJ Dobson, if you think, oh, he's going to take him down and submit him, easy, hammer it, right? It's like, on one hand, I love that train of thought. On the other hand, the only guy who's been able to successfully kind of do that was Jun-Yong Park. And even then, he couldn't submit him. He couldn't. Look at how dangerous Jun-Yong Park is, and how he was not able to do that against Nchukwi, a fresh Nchukwi, like an Nchukwi who was like still coming into the UFC. So for AJ Dobson, both of these guys got some pretty wicked striking. I think so, personally. Tafon Nchukwi, I think he had like 14 Muay Thai fights or something like that, won like 13 of them. AJ Dobson, credentialed striker as well to a degree. But if they're standing and trading, man, I find it hard to just completely edge AJ Dobson. I see Tafon Nchukwi firmly in the driver's seat, but that's what scares me, man. What happens when Tafon throws the big shot, overextends, Dobson takes his back or whatever, or counters him, clips him, takes his back, drags him down, jumps on a choke, boom, controls him for the rest of the round. I don't know if it's going to be feasible, but I'm liking the submission chances and the grappling chances of AJ Dobson come late round 2, round 3, much more than I do fresh round 1, even though that's counterintuitive because normally you want to get them when they're dry and whatnot. But that's my thought process for this fight hitting the ground. Now, AJ, realistically, does this fight actually hit the ground?
I don't think so, Derek. I don't think so at all, brother. I'm expecting a phone booth right here. And I also think that's why the odds makers have that submission prop so high. Yeah, I would think it's more favorable for AJ Dobson to do that later rounds when all the muscles, all the, you're tired, you're sore, you don't want to be there anymore. That's when those are going to open up. But that's why it's plus 750 and plus 1,000. I don't think this fight's hitting the ground at all. I'd be surprised if this fight does not end in a knockout.
Give me the Tafon Nchukwi plus 265 TKO right here, bro. I mean, it's tough because AJ Dobson fought 2 pretty credentialed guys and snuck out some decision losses, not quitting on himself. But when you get hit firmly by Tafon Nchukwi, guys just don't really survive, man. And some guys do. Iron Turtle, right? Jun-Yong Park, some of those guys, they do. But Carlos Ulberg proved that I got to get to him before he gets to me. And if AJ Dobson does not take that approach, I like Tafon here. What do you think?
I agree with you, Derek, and I think why I'm thinking TKO, that this fight's going to end in a knockout for either man. Both of them have 2 losses. Both of them are somewhat in that camp of you're fighting for your job. We saw what happened to Tafon when Carlos Ulberg put that pressure. Same thing can happen if AJ Dobson puts that pressure, but Tafon always has a chance to knock you out. So I'm going Tafon the Don Nchukwi plus 265 TKO. I'm actually going to go late, Derek. I think this one will end a little later. Give me 3rd round.
That's right. And folks, I just realized right now, and AJ, I hope you do forgive me for this. We need to revise something that we said in the beginning of the show. We talked about prop locks, and we have one here. And this is your prop lock right here, Nchukwi, TKO, right? I'm looking at what you originally put in the Discord, and that is firmly TKO. On the prop lock, AJ, I apologize to you, my brother. I put down Nchukwi's submission. That's why I was like, that doesn't make any sense. But now, the logic, it all makes sense. So, with that being said, Nchukwi prop lock from my man AJ plus 265 TKO. I think when you pulled up the numbers live, it was at plus 260. So jump on it if you can, folks. Seriously. Apologies about that. Won't happen again. All right. Moving on down to the fight to open up the bout here. We're talking about Josh Fremd, who's coming off of a very, very humbling, in a good way, right? Definitive domination victory against Cedricus Dumas, right? And he's fighting Jamie Pickett, who, in all honesty, man, Jamie Pickett, you got to give the man a lot of credit. You fought Dennis Tululin, right? Tough fight right there. And then right after you say, oh, yeah, that Bone Nickel guy. Come on, man. Give him over here. I'm going to beat that guy up. Lots of losses on the record of Jamie Pickett as of late. He is officially 4-6 in his last 10 fights, and it's not going to be an easy fight here against Josh Fremd. So I don't have much to say on this here, AJ, but my thoughts are, or my question to you are, what are your thoughts specifically on Jamie Pickett, who is just in a mad search pretty much to pick up a victory right now? Like, what are your thoughts on that?
And don't also forget about my other dog, bro, Kyle Daukaus down there. Like I said, I'm one of the initiated now, bro, self-proclaimed. Yeah. But no, I do. It's an interesting mindset for Jamie Pickett because it seems to be he's that company guy. He'll fight anybody. He doesn't care. Bring it on. I am here to serve, man, to really put it to people. And having that aspect going against a very dangerous opponent, Josh Fremd, especially that he's underknown, it always questions me of who's actually taking these guys and like choosing the fights for them. Because it seems like Jamie Pickett's just signing whoever comes, whenever, it doesn't really matter. But this is a very hard fight for Jamie Pickett. One, both the guys have pressure. Both guys have power. Both guys have speed. But Josh Fremd has just that extra little bit in the tool belt about ground game, takedowns, ring generalship, controlling the fight. Jamie Pickett, we've seen him, especially in his last couple fights, he is okay with taking the second step. He's okay with being the one reacting to things. And when that happens against Josh Fremd, this is going to put you down, beat you up, take your back, submit you, whatever he's going to choose to do in those moments. And do you think the ground game of Jamie Pickett will be able to defend that? Or even the stand-up and distance control, do you think Jamie Pickett has that in his arsenal, Derick?
Well, I'm gonna answer your question with a question. I know that sucks, but hear me out here. When you're not picking up wins, when you've defined yourself as a company man, maybe not self-proclaimed, right? But your actions have defined that for you. You've become the company man. Wins and losses aren't particularly as important to you as going out there and competing, right? And just putting it out there. When all of that stuff is down, you're not in a title contender. You're not fighting for a number. You have one thing left, AJ, and I think we can both agree. If you're fighting for nothing, you're still fighting for something. What is that one thing that we all have to fight for?
Our ego, brother.
Our pride. Yes, exactly. I think, and folks, I need you to know, disclaimer off the bat, my prop lock of the night, or of the weekend, Josh Fremd, decision victory, Jamie Pickett. My reasoning is because when you have nothing left to fight for but your pride, your ego, your manhood, your machismo, you say, I don't care what's going to happen, win or lose, you're not going to finish me. And I don't know if it's that easy at the highest level in the UFC against a killer like Josh Fremd who will put that backpack on you and put you down. But I think that if Jamie Pickett has something to fight for here, right, I think that this is going to be a hard-fought decision. I think he leaves it all out there, but I think that Josh Fremd does not get the finish if we see that motivated Jamie Pickett. Now, this could all go out the window and Josh Fremd submits him in like 30 seconds, or Jamie Pickett, with that 80-inch reach, he could knock out Josh Fremd. But that's my thought process on this, man. So, like, give me your thoughts, just reactionary thoughts. You don't got to agree with me. You could be like, bro, you're batshit crazy. You don't know what you're talking about. But just, like, give me your reaction to that.
Absolute batshit crazy, Derick. You don't know what you're talking about. No, you hit the nail on the head again, as always, because Jamie Pickett has exactly that. When you have nothing left to fight for, you're fighting for yourself and you're fighting for your family to put food on the table. There's nothing more visceral than that. When the bill guy comes knocking and you got to do is knuckle up, Jamie Pickett is that guy. And the toughness of Jamie Pickett, it's hard to get him out of there, man, unless, you're hitting a flying knee out of nowhere. You got the power of Carlos Urberg and you spark him, which Josh Fremd can do. It's going to be hard when you have that extra little bit of mentality pushing you forward. Now, man, it's hard because I do think Josh Fremd can finish Jamie Pickett. But I like betting on the toughness of Jamie Pickett here because he is that dog. We've seen it happen. It's hard though, Derick. I'm still going to go with the sleep. I'm still going with the submission. I'm going with what I initially thought right off the bat. I'm taking Josh Fremd. I'm taking him by submission and give it to me in round 2.
That's right. And give me the decision victory. I'll just say this. I'm putting a little more stock into the lesson that I've learned from AJ on this program. And it's that sometimes X's and O's and logic does not tell the tale of the tape, right? Sometimes when your back is against the wall, you're down 3 losses and you need to get something back, you fight with a vigor that you never had before. With that being said, we still like Josh Fremd here. But shout out to the Night Wolf, Jamie Pickett. You know what I mean? You got to be game to fight all those guys. And with that being said, folks, that was your main card breakdown, UFC Vegas 78, all taken care of right there. And now, AJ, the most coveted aspect of this show, it is highlighting the unknowns of today, but the stars of tomorrow. Folks, let's talk about some sleepers, baby.
It's time for some fight night.
And if you ain't paying attention, you're gonna sleep on me and I'm gonna wake you up.
All right, my brother, we got some good sleepers on deck right here. And AJ, you actually got a really, really good sleeper that I would like for you to talk to the people about. As you get started, I will bring it up on the screen, but go ahead, talk to the people about your sleeper, the Fire Marshal, Francis Marshall, and Isaac Dulgarian. What do you think?
You said it, Derick. Francis, the Fire Marshal versus Isaac Dulgarian, the Midwest Chopper, folks. This, to me, is the epitome of a sleeper section. Yes, they're bangers of fighters. All knockout power, submissions like crazy. But both of these guys are rather unknown to the general media market. And what makes me so excited, you can see Francis Marshall, he had an L on his first one. But this boy is a finisher, even though he's gotten to the UFC and kind of stumbled on that, a bunch of submissions. He's very, very dangerous on the ground, and he's always looking to put the pressure. But you know who else is always looking to put the pressure? Dulgarian, man. Isaac Dulgarian, he has a bunch of knockouts on his record. I forget, it's some crazy, ridiculous stat. Like, I think he's finished every single one of his professional fights, 5-0. You can see it, he's undefeated. He has that momentum. He has that cockiness, that air, or that air of arrogance, if you will, going into this. And the pressure he puts on is with those knuckles. So you can see it right there. A lot of people are betting on Francis Marshall. In fact, when I looked at this the other day, the middle section, the submission was up like 67% for Marshall. But you look down there, Dulgarian has the majority of his by knockout. 42% of people think he can get it done. Don't look at the numbers of 76 versus 24 because Fire Marshall is a lot more known. So he has fans out there betting. Again, this is Tapology Bets, but go tune in because this is regardless going to be such a fun fight with two rather unknown dudes bringing everything they got to the table and knuckling up. This is a classic sleeper section, folks. I've told you once, I'll tell you again, you better tune in, hit that subscribe button. And also, Derick has a banger of a sleeper. I was a little sad I didn't get because he put it in on Monday again, bro. I got to get better at getting these sleepers ahead of time, brother. Who you got?
Well, listen, man, I want to say that first matchup that we just talked about, you need to tune into that. The Fire Marshal is no joke. His popularity is for a reason. The dude is legit. But listen, man, he's got a young stud on his hand, and he's got to go and be that marker on whether you're going to send him back onto the regional scene. I mean, you never know. It's the UFC. Or, you know what I mean? You know what happened. But, folks, the sleeper that I'm going to be talking about here today is a sleeper for a good reason. The reason why this is a sleeper is because you should know my background, right? So, AJ, he's pretty much like our striking connoisseur here on this program. Neither of us are any professionals or anything like that, man. We like to break down fights. That's what we like to do. However, jiu-jitsu, that's my bread and butter. That's what I like to do right here, right? So I'm going to be talking about a jiu-jitsu phenom, Jacqueline Amorim versus Montserrat Conejo, aka Montserrat Ruiz. This is the thing that you need to know here. Amorim, in her last fight, she lost to Sam Hughes, and this was very controversial because Sam Hughes, the wrestler, was able to pretty much just mitigate the butt scooting and all the pulling guard of Jacqueline Amorim. Bad luck for jiu-jitsu, but it is what it is. Now, Montserrat Conejo, where did she get her big popularity? AJ, I actually got to bring you in for this one. Where'd she get her big popularity from, man? Remember that fight against Cheyenne Bays? And she hit her with the head and arm so many times that she said, yo, bitch, I'll follow you home. Like, after this fight, it's not done. Popularity on the scene. She dropped her last fight against Amanda Lemos. Not a fun fight because she did get sparked in that one. But the point is, man, when it comes down to two people who utilize grappling, one is looking for a jiu-jitsu wide array of different submission attacks and things of that nature. The other one wants to get you in pretty much the gimmick head and arm and just punch your face until you're done. When you got those two people on hand, you would imagine it's going to be one of two things, right? Kickboxing matchup, or it's going to be just nonstop scrambles. Would you agree?
Oh, 100%, Derick. I actually think this one, more often than not, I lend towards a kickboxing match, a striking match, but I think this one's going to be an absolute washing machine, up and down fight, looking for transitions. Like you said, if you're getting head and armed, you're getting noogied by your opponent, there's multiple ways out of it, and both of these fighters know how to do it, man. So this one's very exciting.
And that's also why this is an intriguing matchup, because if you're looking at Amarim, man, if she gets head and armed and she gets embarrassed in that way with her jiu-jitsu credentials, that's a much larger storyline. So this is going to be a fun fight. It is at 115 pounds, so you should expect it's going to be, you know what I mean, lots of action and all that good stuff. But at the end of the day, you need to pay attention to both of these fighters moving forward in this, what has been more or less a stagnant division. That is your sleeper section, folks. And with that being said, talk about some prelims. But AJ, before we do this, this is another friendly reminder here to the good folks who are watching this program as we're going to break down these prelims. Please do not forget to subscribe, tell a friend to tell a friend. And if you found us on Twitter, on YouTube Shorts, on Instagram, then tell a friend on those platforms. Subscribe. You know what time it is. All right. AJ, man, with this prelim breakdown, there's one fight in particular I need your thoughts on. Marcus McGee, JP Buys. AJ, talk to the people. What do you think about this matchup, man? And can JP Buys get back on the board in this one?
Oh, yes, Derick. I think this is a winnable fight for JP Buys. The problem is, it seems to be JP Buys always gets in his way in his fights, and Marcus McGee's no slouch, bro. He can absolutely knock you out. 7-1 coming in. This dude's a killer. But when you're sitting there, we talked about it before. You're 3 losses in now. You got nothing else, man. Your wife left you. She's actually prospering. Your ex-wife, whatever. And now you have to fight for your contract and your title. This is going to be a very hungry JP Buys, not someone to trifle with. What do you think?
I think you're 100% correct. JP Buys, I think, is very much a sleeper for this fight at plus 300. And really the only problem that I think we've seen is just the chin, man. He's getting clipped against bigger, larger opponents, man. Bruno Silva isn't a big guy, right? But he packs a lot of power. Montel Jackson is not a fun fight to take. It's like, he's had a very tough strength of schedule. And if you're looking at the last fight, Cody Durden, look at what Cody Durden just did to Jake Hadley, right? It goes to show he fought guys who weren't as popping as they should have been, but, the losses aged well. Now, Marcus McGee comes in short notice and just chokes out Journey Newsom. So it's like, yo, you deserve a spot, right? JP Buys, how does he win the fight, though?
Ooh, because that's an interesting one, because I say JP Buys is better at this ground game of his own game. He's more skilled on the ground, especially with a rocky chin right there, Derick. I think he takes the quote-unquote safe approach, control distance, clinch up, back out, make this a point fight, don't engage in the brawl. Do you see another option?
I think that's fair. I think that he needs to use just that hard work, technical prowess. He's been training with some killers. I've been seeing him a lot around Vegas with Aljamain Sterling, so don't know what the connection is, but if they've been training together, lots of good news right there. All right, let's talk about just a couple other prelim matchups right here. I wanted to talk about Terrence McKinney coming in short notice against Mike Breeden. My only question is not about wins and losses. It's about, are you a fool? Because I'm pretty sure that the over and under for this one is 1.5 rounds. Are you almost like a ridiculous fool to not bet on the under here?
You have to be. I mean, it's short notice with the last 2 ways T-Rex Terrence McKinney has finished his fight. It seems like it's a no-brainer not to hammer the under for all of those.
And real quick, folks, I'm going to take a look right now, just like pulling up the MMA over and unders right here for UFC Vegas 78. And when I'm taking a look at the line right here, 1.5 rounds. The under, the under is minus 300. So you're not getting a ton of value here, but it goes to show the logic is correct, right? You're like, yo, these guys are going to throw flames at each other, man. Someone's going out early, I imagine. So last fight I want to talk about right here is not about the matchup. It's more about the fighter. Juliana Miller returns back to action against Luana Santos. And my question to you is that Juliana Miller had a pretty rough outing against Veronica Hardy. And it goes to show her jiu-jitsu is sick, but some of that striking, it needs work, man. She's long and lanky, and when she can become a little more technically proficient in performance, I think everything turns around. But as it stands right now, I'm not too familiar with Luana Santos, but I do know that Juliana Miller has the intangibles. She's just got to put it together. What do you think?
I actually, one, Derick, I agree with you. But 2, I actually think this is a very winnable fight for Juliana Killer Miller in there. We're not going to see the baby giraffe, the gangly striking we saw happen in that first fight. 1, she's better than that. And I think having a little more, background now, having that kind of ease of the octagon kind of now off her shoulders, you're fighting a newcomer to the UFC, somebody who's going to be going through those exact same things, but also Santos's bread and butter is that ground game. So Juliana Miller is going to feel more comfortable doing that. I actually see a kickboxing match in this one. We'll see how Juliana Miller fares again. And maybe I eat my words and we still see Baby Giraffe, but who knows? I like Killer Miller in this fight. I think it's winnable. What about you?
Well, fair. Like I said, I don't know too much about Santos, to be completely honest. I'm looking at her record. She got some Kesekatami, leg Americanas. Like, all right, we got some jiu-jitsu here. Right on. Shout out to Japan, but just throwing out the Japanese name. Shout out John Danaher. But yeah, man, I don't know too much. I just think that the prospect of Juliana Miller is something that you should be high on for the longevity. Like, I think she will have a pretty solid career through and through. But we'll see. And that's pretty much all that we got there. So, folks, with that being said, another episode in the books. Here we are. Can't believe it. Almost to 250. And in order to commemorate that, I don't know. You should subscribe. You should do all the fun stuff. I've said it before. AJ, they know what time it is. Would you have any thoughts to lead us out of here, AJ?
Folks, you shouldn't subscribe. You must subscribe.
That's right.
Go hit that button right now. Click it because you're doing yourself a favor. We talked about it before. 237 episodes, right on our way to 250. We know that the consistency, we know that the bets gives you all these warm and fuzzies, but I know what gives you even warm and fuzzier, some money in your pocket. And what does it for us over here is when you hit that subscribe button, hit the comment section. We won't forget you again, Derick. We made the blunder one time. I even know the comment he's talking about. The dude went off on like a 2-paragraph explanation of very well structured. Sorry, we forgot your name again, but it won't happen. That's what makes us happy and drives us going forward. And it just, all we're asking is a little reciprocation. Hit that subscribe button, share it to your friends, be a good friend, and let's all go win some money this weekend.
Let's all go win some money, folks. And then this is the last thing I want everybody to just take a moment to think about, right? When you're going and you're like typing in YouTube and you're talking about a fight because you're thinking about throwing about a little money on William Hill or on Bovada or whatever you do, right? And you think, okay, what is my best desired outcome? My most desired outcome is I win a ton of money and I get a clean sweep and I do all of that, right? Well, then you have to ask yourself, once you click on this video, is this video right here that you are currently watching, so you've already clicked, right? But you take into consideration, watching this video, will it get me closer or further to my desired outcome? And I'll tell you, 9.99 out of 10 times, we're getting you closer to where you need to be, baby. So with that being said, folks, it's your favorite fighter's favorite fight show for a reason. You know what time it is. Bloody Water Podcast. That is it for us, and until next time, peace.